want the security cameras to capture any footage of me. If they did, my cover would be blown, and my parents would discover my hiding spot. While I stood in line at the cashiers, my gaze was drawn to the TV screen behind the counter. I heard the reporter discussing a missing girl, who happened to be me. My photo was displayed on the screen, and the reporter urged people to cooperate if they had any information that could help locate me. My anxiety surged. I quickly paid for my items and left the supermarket, being careful not to make eye contact with anyone. I headed to the place where I had taken refuge, Mrs. Lucy's house, the elderly neighbor who lived next door. She had been away, visiting her son in another state, which made her house the ideal hiding spot. Neither my parents nor the police had considered searching there. I reached the house and entered through the back door, into the kitchen. I moved cautiously, avoiding turning on any lights to prevent anyone from noticing my presence. Peeking through the curtains, I checked on our house. For now, everything appeared to be normal. You might wonder why I was doing all of this. It all began a month ago at my high school. Suddenly, being popular was synonymous with having expensive possessions. And I mean extravagantly expensive. Things only my friend Arya could afford, thanks to her millionaire dad. She had purchased a designer bag that cost $20,000 and brought it to school. All the girls wanted to take pictures of it, and all the boys vied for Arya's attention, thinking she would shower them with gifts, given her financial status. And it worked. Arya started dating Joseph, the most popular boy in school. I couldn't help but feel jealous. In fact, all the girls were envious. So, they all started following the same path, buying expensive items and flaunting them, hoping to catch a guy's or anyone's attention. But I couldn't do that. My parents were far from well off. They worked tirelessly just to make ends meet each month, and there was nothing I could do about it. Then one day, during gym class, Bella, an old rival of mine, decided to single me out. So, Hazel, how come we've never seen you showing off anything? Are you homeless? Her spiteful comment caught me off guard, and I could feel all eyes in the gym turn towards me. My face flushed red, whether from anger or sheer embarrassment. I wasn't sure, but I managed to respond, I'd rather not. I have standards, you know? Bella snickered mockingly. Yeah, right, Mother Ruby? We all know it's because you're poor. You have nothing. Perhaps I should have just ignored her comment and let it slide. But no, I couldn't restrain myself. I had to reply, oh, yeah. Just watch me, Bella retorted. Oh, I will, homeless girl. I went home that day feeling defeated, wondering what I had gotten myself into and how I could prove her wrong when I had virtually nothing. I tried to persuade my mom, even begged her to lend me $200 to buy a fake designer jacket. She looked at me like I was out of my mind. $200 for a jacket? Are you crazy? Do you know how many hours I worked to earn that money? She scolded. Before she could finish her lecture about the value of hard work and appreciating every penny, I stormed into my room and slammed the door shut. She had no idea how challenging it was to be a high school student, let alone understand the harsh social judgment that occurred there. The following day, I pretended to be sick. I simply couldn't bear the thought of going to school, facing Bella, and enduring more of her cruel comments. My mom let me stay in bed, too tired to argue with me in the morning. Later, when I ventured into the kitchen for breakfast, I saw my dad's credit card lying on the counter. My eyes widened, and my heart began to race. I hesitated for a moment. My dad would absolutely lose it if he found out I'd used his credit card without permission. But I couldn't help but wonder, was this some sort of cosmic sign? My dad never forgot his credit card, and the timing of it all was just too uncanny. Perhaps the universe had sensed the agony I was enduring and decided to throw me a lifeline. I cautiously took the credit card and went online. Navigating to a secondhand goods website, I scrolled through countless options. Eventually, I settled on a designer handbag that cost $300. It had a unique owl design stitched on the back, adorned with shiny, colorful beads. With my heart pounding, I filled in the billing information and clicked the confirm button. Just like that, the bag was mine. The website promised it would be delivered within 2 days, and I couldn't have been more thrilled. Finally, I'd fit in with the girls at my school, and Bella would have no reason to torment me any longer. I discreetly returned the credit card to its spot and continued with my day. But then something strange occurred. The following day, as I was preparing for school, a message popped up on my phone. It read, "The bag you purchased is not available for sale. Cancel your order now. You will receive a refund." I glanced at the number, which seemed unusually long and had an excessive number of zeros. It felt odd, almost like a prank. I tried searching for the number online, but it yielded no results. People bought things online every day, right? If they were meant for me, they would have sent an email, wouldn't they? I brushed it off and went to school that day with newfound confidence. I stared Bella down as if I were a different person, silently promising her retribution in 2 days' time. However, later that day, I received another message. Be prepared to face the consequences. The choice is yours. We will come to your house and take the bag. A chill ran down my spine. Could this be a legitimate threat? If they knew where I lived, who knew what they were capable of? My mind was racing as panic consumed me in my room. What if they came for me? What if they knew where I was hiding? Or worse, if they targeted my parents? These terrifying thoughts raced through my head as I spiraled into hysteria. Then, the doorbell rang, and I jumped in fright. I rushed to answer it, my heart pounding in my chest. Peering cautiously through the door's peephole, I saw the delivery man standing there with the bag. It had arrived. Trembling, I opened the door just wide enough to grab the bag and hastily signed for it, all the while scanning my surroundings for any suspicious figures. Once I had the bag safely in my possession, I closed the door, my nerves still on edge. I rushed upstairs to examine it more closely. At first glance, it appeared to be an ordinary bag. I unzipped it and meticulously checked the pockets, but nothing unusual emerged. Why on earth would someone be so desperate to take it back? Despite my confusion, the threatening messages continued relentlessly. The sender kept warning me, and I couldn't shake the feeling that they were closing in on me. In my desperation, I made a fateful decision. Instead of sending the bag back, I chose to disappear. I couldn't bring myself to confess the truth to my parents. My dad remained oblivious to his credit card being used, and I didn't want to face the consequences. I feared he would ground me, and I just wasn't ready for that. Moreover, my curiosity had taken hold. I needed to understand why this bag was so significant to them. By midnight, I had packed some essentials and left my home as silently as a shadow, being careful not to make a sound. I knew that Mrs. Lucy always left the kitchen door open for her dog, so I seized the opportunity. It had been 2 days since I made my escape. I switched off my cell phone to avoid detection and continued to watch my house from my hidden vantage point. My parents were understandably frantic, and the police had even been called to investigate, but I remained resolute. The first day passed, and I observed from my hiding place, nothing out of the ordinary happening. My parents' distress was evident, and it frustrated me, especially when they both chose not to go to work. I was hiding to protect them, but their actions were making it increasingly difficult for me. The second day dragged on, monotonous and uneventful. I continued to keep a vigilant watch. My parents persisted in their search for me, yet the whole situation remained eerily quiet. Hunger gnawed at my stomach, and I knew I had to find something to eat soon. Mrs. Lucy's pantry didn't hold the kind of food I was accustomed to, so I threw on my hoodie and hat to blend in, heading to the grocery store in search of snacks. Little did I know that a news report would catch my attention while I was there. After returning to Mrs. Lucy's, I cooked myself a steaming bowl of ramen noodles and sat near the window. It was time to turn on my cell phone, which had remained untouched for 2 days. As soon as I unlocked it, a barrage of notifications flooded in, missed calls, messages, and mentions all over my social media accounts. For the past couple of days, my phone had been in airplane mode with the Wi-Fi turned off. I began my online journey by checking Twitter first, where a particular hashtag immediately grabbed my attention. I hope you are safe. I began scrolling through the tweets, discovering that many of my classmates had shared pictures of me with heartfelt captions, expressing their concern and wishes for my safety. Arya, one of my friends, seemed to be particularly worried, with numerous tweets asking for help to find me. As I continued scrolling, I stumbled upon a tweet from Zachary, my lab partner. Our interactions had always been limited to class discussions and project work. To my astonishment, he was now confessing his love openly in his tweet, stating, "I never had the courage to say it before, but if you ever come back, I'll let you know." I couldn't help but wonder if he was joking. I had been missing for just 2 days, and suddenly, I had a secret admirer like a character in a Hollywood movie. The whole situation was surreal. Why had he kept his feelings hidden until now? The attention I was receiving overwhelmed me, but it also piqued my curiosity. The person who had threatened me had yet to reveal themselves, and secretly, I wanted to see how far this would go. I decided to extend my stay with Mrs. Lucy for another week. My obsession shifted from watching my house to compulsively checking my social media accounts. My desire to read every post they had made about me consumed me. However, to my surprise, things took a sudden downturn on the 6th day. People began returning to their regular lives, their posts about me dwindling until they eventually stopped altogether. It was as if I had become a distant memory, forgotten by the very people who had once expressed concern. Then, one morning, I witnessed my mother's return to our house. She appeared weary, her frame noticeably thinner, and dark circles marred the area around her eyes. Seeing her in such a state shattered my heart into pieces. Had I pushed things too far with this entire charade? Overwhelmed with guilt, I sank into the couch, my emotions on the brink. I longed to cry, to release the pent-up emotions, but I couldn't find the strength. Gathering my belongings, I made the decision to return home. I knocked on our front door, patiently waiting for my parents to answer. When my mother finally opened the door and laid eyes on me, she nearly fainted. She embraced me tightly, showering me with kisses, her worry and relief evident in her actions. Witnessing her distress hurt me deeply. I couldn't believe I had put her through this ordeal. My father joined us shortly after, enveloping me in a warm hug as well. We all settled into the living room, their eagerness to hear my story palpable. I began recounting the entire saga, explaining the details about the mysterious bag and the threatening note. I showed my mom the evidence on my phone, and she stared at the number on the screen. Then, she turned to my dad, her tone laced with concern, and asked, "Oh, please don't tell me you sent that message. Did you use your work number, the one associated with your company's app?" I gazed at my father, who appeared visibly agitated, sweat forming on his forehead, and his face flushed with embarrassment. Wait, had my dad really done that? My mom looked frightened, so my dad had no choice but to confess. "Oh, honey, she used my credit card to buy a $300 bag. I wanted to teach her a lesson, but I didn't expect her to take it so seriously and run out of the house." Mom's anger flared up, and she began shouting at my dad, who attempted to placate her. Out of nowhere, I burst into laughter. I couldn't help it. The absurdity of the situation struck me as comical. My parents eventually joined in my laughter. I couldn't recall the last time I had seen them so carefree and happy. 2 weeks later, the commotion surrounding my disappearance gradually subsided. My dad informed the police that I had returned home safe and sound, and they were cautious about revealing further details, given that I was still under 18. I had learned my lesson, and despite my parents' insistence that I keep the bag, I was determined to return it. I didn't want any more of the wrong kind of attention. Arya, my sole friend, was overjoyed to see me back at school. My mom revealed that she had visited Arya every day while I was missing to inquire about my well-being. Bella ceased bothering me, and to my surprise, Zachary turned out to be genuine. He truly had feelings for me. He asked me out, and with a smile, I accepted his invitation.